The town of Hollow Ferns had long since fallen off the map. Hidden deep in the forests of Vermont, it was the kind of place that didn't show up on GPS and hadn't had a working phone line since the early 90s. To Nora, that isolation was precisely the appeal. She was burned out, professionally and emotionally. Her divorce had been finalized 2 months ago, and the city noise never let her rest. So when she inherited her great-aunt's house in Hollow Ferns, she saw it as a quiet escape. The house was exactly what you'd expect from a horror novel. Gabled roofs, moss-covered shingles, and windows like tired eyes. It sat hunched on the edge of the woods, peering into them as though waiting for something to return. When Nora arrived, fog rolled off the hills and spilled into the yard. The key turned reluctantly in the front door. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of dust, lavender, and something else, something metallic. A single sheet of wallpaper peeled like dead skin from the hallway. Yet despite its age, the place was oddly intact. It was as if someone had been living there until quite recently. 3 days in, Nora found the journal. It was tucked behind a loose brick in the basement wall. The pages were yellowed and brittle, filled with spidery handwriting and entries that began in the 1940s and stopped abruptly in 1972. The entry spoke of strange things. The trees whisper at night. The man with no skin came again. I locked the cellar door, but heard it breathing. Nora dismissed it as eccentric rambling. Her great aunt had been a recluse, after all. But then came the sounds. Footsteps in the attic, even though she hadn't gone up there. Soft crying behind the walls. Her cat, Salem, would hiss at corners and meow at nothing. On the 7th day, she found the attic door open. She remembered locking it. She was sure of it. And yet there it was, yawning wide with a narrow staircase disappearing into darkness. She held her breath, grabbed a flashlight, and climbed. Dust and dead moths coated the steps. The attic was full of things that shouldn't be there. Dolls with stitched mouths, antique mirrors draped in black cloth, photographs with the faces scratched out. And in the far corner, a cot, rusted and stained. The journal's last page mentioned the attic. I cannot let it out. The mirror must stay covered. It watches. It remembers. Nora lifted the cloth. The mirror was ordinary at first glance. Tall with a gold frame, tarnished by time. But the reflection was wrong. It didn't show her. It showed the room as it was decades ago. A nurse tending to a pale, unmoving body on the cot. Then the reflection moved. The nurse looked up and smiled at her. From that night on, Nora dreamed in third person. She was always someone else. A little boy running from a shadow in the woods. A woman drowning in the pond out back. A man standing in the basement, whispering Latin into a wall that bled. The town seemed abandoned, but she realized it wasn't. People watched from windows. Figures stood motionless by trees. Once when she drove down the only road out, the trees had grown inward overnight, blocking the path. Her phone battery never held a charge. The internet refused to connect. Time felt stretched, like molasses sliding off a spoon. And Salem went missing. She heard it breathing again. It was coming from behind the boiler. She approached, flashlight trembling in her grip. The journal said it had been sealed away. It takes shape when you notice it. It feeds when you name it. She found a door behind the boiler. Not a typical basement door. A trap door, crusted with rust and sealed with 3 locks. One of the locks was snapped. That night she dreamed of the creature again. It was tall, skinless, its red muscles slick and twitching, eyes lidless and white. It watched from mirrors. It watched from puddles. And in the dream, she knew its name. Desperate for answers, Nora revisited the attic mirror. She stared until the edges of her vision blurred. The nurse appeared again, but this time she spoke. You can't let it out. It's tied to the name. The house keeps it. Hollow Ferns keeps it. What's its name? Nora asked. If you say it, you'll call it. If you call it, it will follow. The mirror cracked. The journal had one more page now. Nora was sure it hadn't been there before. It was fresh ink. You look too long. It saw you. Now it wears your skin. Now you are in the mirror. She screamed and ran to the mirror. It showed her face, but not her eyes. The eyes were wrong. And behind her in the reflection, something smiled. The townfolk whispered of the woman who moved into Hollow Ferns. She lasted 2 weeks. Sometimes they say, at dusk, the house groans. Sometimes they say, you can hear a woman screaming from the attic. And sometimes you see her through the window, standing still, smiling with someone else's eyes. But no one ever goes to help, because Hollow Ferns remembers.